Myself right now, coming back from work. And I realized, well, I didn't finish talking about experiential identity in part one, everything that was brought up in tape 159 by Tiendo. So I'm just going to go through my notes, and I might repeat some things, but I'm just going to try to go through my notes and add in additional comments because it's kind of hard to talk about this until you draw in enough mind from the next level on this subject, which I haven't done. And so by going over it again, it helps me also draw in mind from the next level. And drawing in mind is directly related to reading, listening, opening our minds to what everything that Tiendo and crew left behind for us. I'm not talking about me, even though I'm still part of that crew, as anybody can be part of that crew. Though we can't assume it, I guess I shouldn't assume I'm part of that crew, but I am trying to act in their behalf in providing the truth about what they taught, what they said, what they did, and all the implications that I can recall and that I've learned about since having left the group. Because nobody, even if you flunk out, that doesn't mean that it's the end of your life and you're going to hell because of that. We all fall short. If we don't think that we fall short, then we don't know. We just don't have enough knowledge and information and awareness, consciousness of the ways that we fall short. It's not like that's a negative to fall short. That's part of the design to stimulate our growth by wanting to know the answers, by wanting to understand why we're on this planet. And not just like, I was listening to an interview today, and I was off the track, off the subject, with, I think it was Alanis Morissette, who I remember listening to, after I left the group. Some time after that, she came out with her stuff, and I liked it. She was angry, expressing anger a lot of times, and strong emotions, but it was well done, it was honest. So I heard an interview with her on Q, the NPR station show, and the last question that the host asked her was, what do you think happens after we die? And in short, she said that we merge back into the all. And at the end of what she said, because she described it a little bit more, saying that perhaps she would channel through somebody her music. She might channel her music through somebody else, which, I don't think that's an inaccurate point of view. Because that's what the discarnates do. They go to humans to try to live through those humans. And they influence humans, and it can be very beneficial to humans to help them with whatever they want to do. I mean, if they don't have any inclination towards music, then they're not going to be, then that spirit of whoever was the artist that died isn't going to use them. I remember meeting somebody years ago who had a good friend that was in Germany somewhere who said that she was a channel for John Lennon. And I don't doubt it. Why not? If you ask for it and you have something that John Lennon spirit wants to get from you or through you, in other words, the same buzz that that individual got when he was in a vehicle. You know, which is, there's an ego buzz, there's a fun buzz, there's an emotional buzz. You know, it's all human buzzes. That the only way those dead humans can get their buzz is through another human. That's why the only way that we can grow is through these vehicles. Because that spirit that's getting that buzz from influencing a human to be a channel for him, or however that relates, you know, it might just be talking about him or playing his songs or being in a band and playing his songs in the band, you know, being inspired by what he did and stuff like that. All different degrees of relationship that spirit might choose to interface with those humans because of. So, so when they get that, the thing that happens with that is that they don't grow from it. It's just like a computer program that gets to run on a different machine. And so while it's running, the program feels alive. Because it is, in a sense. It's running, so it's executing its programs, its code. Okay, so, but then when the vehicle dies, then it doesn't have that hardware to operate through anymore. So it looks for other hardware to operate through. And so that's the process. Okay, so, but, you know, I'm not the judge of Alanis Morissette or anybody else, for that matter, because, you know, they have their own perspective, and it may be fine for them to, you know, because the host agreed with what he called the religion of Alanis Morissette that she expressed in the interview, was that, you know, she may come back through like channeling through somebody else, or that she'll just merge with the all. And she talked about how physicists and, you know, more and more scientists say that we're all connected, and it's true, but it's an illusion of existence, because it's not really existence. It's just like a computer program really isn't living. It's not, artificial intelligence isn't alive. It's artificial intelligence. It's called that for a reason, I think. And it doesn't have judgment. It has programmed judgment, right? But it can't change. It can't. It can come up with new judgments, but only if it's got new input. Can it come up with new judgments? So in that way, every time somebody writes a program and that program does a search, that's artificial intelligence. They called it sequential query language, the beginning of it, I believe. That's not exactly right, but that's one application of it, which is the way that databases search for information using a certain language. So I used to program in that language. And if you don't know what questions to ask, what conditions to build into the software that's going to compare this, against this database, against that database, and to come up with the most likely reason, because it gets 100 hits on this kind of answer, or 1,000 hits on this kind of answer, like Google, or like any search engine does. That's a form of artificial intelligence, because you're giving it search criteria, and it's searching for all the applications of that meet most of the conditions. And in the order in which you search for them can have a lot to do with it as well. But the human brain, the computer of the brain and the mind, which is the computer actually, operating through the brain, the spirit, is much more sophisticated than the computers. Because it can do a whole bunch of things at the same time that are all considered to be automatic because of the subconscious programming, the genetic programming that it's relying on. Anyway, I didn't want to get into all that because some of this is my opinion. But so I'm going to get back to the subject of this. Well, I want to finish with saying that it's not the all. It's the next level. It's the older members. It's real people that designed this planet for a reason. Because one thing Alanis Morissette said was that we were all in the playground. This isn't a playground. I'm not against her. I'm not, trying to. But there are a lot of people that kind of think that way. I've heard it before. That they say that the purpose for humanity is to have fun. So what about dying? Is that fun? What about when you have an accident and you're in the hospital? Is that fun? Or that means you're not successful because you're not having fun at that moment? No, it's everything is geared to the potential for growth, and fun is included. It's not like there's not supposed to be any fun. It's all part of the opportunity. But if fun becomes the whole reason, then you're just going to miss out. If you don't grow looking at life like that. Well, I think, I don't know, I'm not to judge anybody, of course, and you never know when somebody could outgrow that, and you never know whether they really think different things, but they only expressed it in one way. And Alanis Morissette said at the end of it that this was a theory. So that's good that she sees that as a theory so that it's not in her mind an absolute. But the thing that happens is when we're successful in the world, it's harder to change our point of view that makes sense out of things. And so it's a benefit to not be successful in the world, because it keeps you in the world. It keeps that identity, that experiential identity that each human has, the mind or the spirit of each human, choosing to restrict themselves by what they won't look into, because they don't want to upset their apple cart, because they found a place that was a happy place, a happy enough place. And you see this throughout the religions. I've seen it the most with Christians, who, they were in a bad place, like maybe with addiction or all different kinds of experiences that they weren't proud of, or whatever, alcohol addiction, or substances, or sex addiction, and all the ramifications to that, or just being a nasty person, and treating people badly, or being willing to harm people in order to get what they wanted, stealing and not caring if they hurt somebody in the process, and just to have stuff, or to have more money so that they don't have to work for it. That's different than stealing to eat. I think that's a big difference. Anyway, I'm not saying I justify any stealing, but I can certainly think that Tindo might understand it. Well, there's degrees of it, I guess. The best thing to do would be to go into the store, I think, if you're hungry, and ask the manager if there's anything that you could do to work for some food, or and then if the manager decides that, for whatever reason they're part of a corporation, so that they can't do that, give them work, because let's say they get hurt on the job, then they get sued and stuff, and they don't have liability and all that, and so the 10 corporations tend to, because of all the insurance policies and everything, it becomes negative and negative to help somebody else. They make it harder and harder for people to actually do the right thing and help somebody. But they can just give things away, and a lot of them do. And I experienced that in the group when we were holding meetings and we ran out of money, and Doe asked us if we wanted to continue, and we said we did if he felt okay about it, a while longer, and that we have to do so by asking for help for our gasoline needs, and for our meeting room needs, and for the making of posters that we could put on the walls to advertise our meetings, and for food, and for if we needed clothing for something reason, and lodging for some reason. Of course we did, but we were equipped to live outdoors even in 1994 then, as well as 1975 and 6. But so we asked for help, and people helped us. We told them we were working for the kingdom of God, the kingdom in the heavens. And if they would ask us what kind of work we're doing, we would say, we're bringing updates to the Bible. And we've got updated information. We got new information, is what I would say. And if they didn't ask what the new information was, then I didn't tell them. Because it's always about asking and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. a knock and the door will be open to you. It's not about, barraging somebody with the information and hoping that, or thinking that, it's like tough love, right? Tell them that they're condemned to hell if they don't believe that Jesus washed their sins away, and then expecting them to actually want to hear what you have to say. And when you're just mimicking those words from Isaiah or whoever it is that you're quoting, which a bunch of preachers do that. They stand on pedestals at fairs and things. I know, I experienced it when I was running around the country doing art shows in the parks and stuff. They'd be standing there on the street preaching on the street shows, and I would actually go up to them and try to help them see a little bit more than they were seeing. And it had to be, most of the time it was a little bit confrontational, because automatically if I was saying something that they interpreted as not being the same things that they were reading in the Bible, they would automatically assume that I was off track and I was there to lead them off track, instead of thinking, well, maybe this is the Lord sending me somebody to help me or give me more information. Because, a lot of Christians know, they talk about that, but then when it happens, it's kind of a rare person, maybe it's not that rare, that actually opens their mind. A lot of times they'll fight you tooth and nail, but you don't know what's going to happen when they go home at night. And they might think, well, maybe what that person said has some value. I'm going to study that and see if I can find it, where it might be talked about in the Bible. Anyway, and that might lead them to asking the Lord, asking their Heavenly Father, God, whatever there is, the name of Allah, or Buddha, or Krishna, for help to understand more, instead of assuming that they got it all already. There's not going to be any new updates, because when Jesus comes, he's going to be in the ether. He's going to be in the sky, in the clouds, somehow bringing us updates, and that we can understand everything just by his presence. Which sees a little bit of truth to that, because when the older members actually in the atmosphere, their minds are in the atmosphere, so everything they know is potentially available if they brought everything they knew. But it's only available to those that can tap into it, and it takes a reaching up to tap into their mind. It takes a thirst to understand things to tap into their mind. So if you're an inventor, somebody that's trying to find a cure to cancer, and you're wanting to find that cure, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. If the next level sees you trying to understand how to cure something, how to do something good, then they have teams of individuals that will give that individual ideas. And then that individual goes to their laboratory and they'll be trying something, okay? And they may try something in a way that isn't even close to that idea, but then they make a mistake or something, and something else happens, and they learn something from something else that happened, and all of a sudden they now developed penicillin, or whatever it was, or electricity. All of a sudden they recognized there was a way to harness electricity. All that stuff Everything was given to humans by the next level. Humans didn't come up with anything. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. On their own. And the space aliens, even though they don't know it, are assisting the next level with some of that. Which is something that T mentioned in the tape 159 that I was going to talk about now, but I got off the track. So that's okay. So I'm going to start with my notes from 159. I only have a few minutes left because I'm going to cut this off probably around the 30-minute mark when I get back to where I live, where Kathy and I live. So anyway, so my notes said, before we were doing missionary work, in the beginning of the classroom, you were learning to stop all the transmissions from your vehicle to your classmates and to yourself and to your teachers and to the world. Now that's a big statement in itself. A very big statement. So the demonstration of that was that so we could stop sending out our thoughts from the mind of this vehicle that includes the genetic mind that puts thoughts into our consciousness. And sending thoughts to our classmates, judging them, or thinking, oh, that person's cute, or that person has a weird way of talking, or I like the way that person thinks. All those kind of thoughts are sending transmissions or talking with them. And so Tiendo put a stop on all that, because the idea was to not transmit, but to only receive. And the receiving was going to be only from your older members. Which meant that if you had an idea, I want to think about how to solve the problem of prisons, the way that they really are rehabilitating people. And so I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking, that's a good thing to think about, right? I like to spend hours thinking about ways that might be made better. But see, that's worthless to the next level. That's worthless to our next level growth. Because the next level could fix the prison system in a jiffy. And they've probably given humans ways to help make it better. I don't know if, it's gone backwards now because it's become privatized, mostly. But, and I'm not saying all prisons are like this, but there might be some that have some experimental programs in them that ended up being good, with libraries and, TV and, giving them some degree of life to maybe help them change from whatever behaviors got them in there that may or may not have been things that the next level considered to be criminal, but can all be used as a lesson of growth for those individuals, even though it might be a very harsh lesson of growth. But, so anyway, but those are thoughts that we had to stop if we were having them. And so they said, okay, no thoughts of the past, because those thoughts were going to lead to what? Wanting to reconnect with those people in the past? Wanting to, go party with them or something? Which is fine, but not in the program that Tiendo had. They wanted people that were serious about leaving everything behind. All their thoughts, all their identity, all their talents and skills, all their behaviors and ways that weren't from the next level. And that was going to be a process. They called it the process in the beginning. And it was bringing that process to fruition that would literally transform the mind into a new creature by using everything, the tools that were given by the older members who had those tools in their computers, in their souls, in their mind that occupied their souls because of having gone through it before themselves, even many times in a human condition. But they didn't bring all that knowledge with them because it would be too much to give it to humans all at once. Just like when you listen to these tapes, when you listen to any of the videotapes from T and Do, Beyond Human series, the first times you listen to it, I mean, you might like Kathy experienced. She felt like, well, it wasn't the first exposure she had. The first exposure, she had, it sounded pretty bizarre, I think, to her. Maybe she didn't use that word, but then another exposure happened and she began to wonder about, what other information there is about this and whether there's anybody left behind. And then she found the Beyond Human tapes. And when she listened to them, everything Do said made sense to her, but she didn't necessarily understand it. And she knew she didn't understand it, but it made sense to her. In other words, so you're not going to understand everything. Nobody is. I don't. I still don't. But I understand more than a lot of people do because I've had more exposure to it. And I accepted it. That's probably the only good thing I did. Well, I shouldn't say that because I'm not the judge of myself. But I accepted the information, and I knew I didn't understand it sometimes. Sometimes I thought I did, and I realized that I didn't. That there were layers of understanding. Just like you could say that, well, I'm an expert car mechanic, but then you could be confronted with a problem that you didn't really understand what was causing that problem. And someone else can come along and say, oh, well, did you look at that? And you can look at it and say, oh yeah, it was right in front of my face. And I just didn't realize it. That's because everything is like that potentially. That there's always better ways of doing things. I mean, that could be taken to an extreme. And that's what some people like to do. They like to say, oh, everything can be improved upon. Well, can you improve upon, I don't know what it would be. I mean, you could say, can you improve upon picking meat out of your teeth with a toothpick? And yeah, you can, because you can also pull out the fillings that you have by doing that. And you can also, where floss doesn't do that if you're gentle. Or you can actually pull out the fillings with your floss too. But I mean, I'm not saying that there's an infinite amount of possibilities in terms of things like that. But with a lot of things, there's a lot of possibilities. So we might as well just never think that we know it all about any subject. We don't. We automatically don't. I think that can be said as an absolute. Because T and Do acknowledge that. projector. I made the right exit. Okay, so the beginning of the classroom was designed differently than what happened in 1982, 3, 4, which basically was the start of the audio tapes, when the task was defined as a big part of it was to deposit thoughts for humans, for the strains of our human vehicles. All the other humans that were on the human tree of life. That are associated with us. And the way we influence them is by our own behaviors and ways. And that can be influenced in a negative way or a positive way. By our example and by the thoughts we put out. What we say, what we do, how we think, what we believe in, all of that influences others, potentially. Of course, if somebody's not a little open-minded, or what we'd call curious, when they hear next level information, or when they hear about Heaven's Gate, is the most obvious way that takes place for some people that have been most exposed to it. That's enough for the next level to sometimes, depending on how great the curiosity is and whether they follow up on it. If it's just a fleeting thought and they don't ever look for any more information, I don't know if that would qualify as maybe that's all it takes for the next level to say, okay, I'm going to give you a little foo-foo juice, and now the next time you see that subject talked about in a documentary or wherever it is, something's going to be like a little spark that goes off and says, oh, that's interesting, or I wonder if that is the case. Or I wonder what they said about that. I wonder if there's anybody left behind from that group that I can ask these questions to. Or maybe there's more data somewhere, And that can lead to looking for the information. That's why Doe gave Gianotti the task of informing everybody after they left that they had a task to do if they wanted it. And that task was get their information out. Get their information out to others. And being willing to stand up for T and Doe and maintain that stand and accept the consequences from that stand, from taking that stand, until the individual leaves their vehicle, however and whenever that happens. Because that's the way to deposit thoughts. That's one of the, how come I didn't go the right way again? All right. Well, here I am. This works. This is good. I don't know why I don't go this way at first.
Alongside Hamas. It's interesting.
Okay, folks. Unless Kathy Southwestern said bring it in. I'm going to close it down. Watching you in virtual reality. Question, does loneliness play a big role in next level understanding ways and or just inherently part of overcoming process? I suppose it may just be how you What happened? Did I just erase that message? I didn't mean to, but I did. Well, I mean, ultimately, you can ask the next level. Ultimately, that was Adam's mistake, that he didn't want to be alone. That all we really need is ourselves and our older member. And if the old, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to have a check partner. But if that's not happening, then I would suggest to be okay with it. Like Kathy wanted to be alone before she came to meet me, and I was content with being alone. I had some social interaction, but I had other reasons for that, and so did Kathy somewhat for a number of years. You know, because she had to work and she had, you know, social interactions that way, and so, you know, okay, you know, but she wasn't looking for like a partner, and I wasn't looking for a partner. Although at one point I felt like if I was going to travel to hold meetings and things like that, I would like to have a partner to do it, because otherwise I wasn't motivated to just go off by myself. But if that's what it came to, I would have done that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. How large the away team was, or if they may have missed anyone. How large the away team was? Well, I hope I didn't put you on timeout or anything before, because I clicked something on this and I didn't mean to. And this action, when I clicked that statement that individual made, wow, I wish I could reverse that. Jeez. Because, you know, I get confused sometimes, and I'm touching the screen, and I touched it, and then I got this other screen, and I didn't know why I got this other screen, so I touched it, and then that person's comment went away. And I didn't mean to do that. If you're able to still hear me and put in another comment. But, see, there it is again. I didn't mean to do that. No, I don't know how large the away team is, whether it's 144,000 or, you know, just a large number of souls. Because all the souls that were, like in Junodi's document, away team from deep space surface before departure, all those souls that ever had a relationship with the next level in prior generations, even prior civilizations, I imagine, are back now. So I don't know how many that is. So nobody gets missed. Oh, I see Kathy just did tune in here. Owen's calling someone a liar. Bible contradicts itself. I used to think that the Bible contradicted itself too. And sure, there are things in the Bible that are contradictory, but that doesn't mean that all the documents in that are contradictory. You see, the Bible isn't one body of work. It's a composite. Jesus doesn't contradict himself. Worldly success is very good at keeping you asleep. I think it can be. I'm not saying it has to be. Watching you in virtual reality, okay. Kathy, should I come in with it, or maybe I should end it at this point? Which I'm open to, because there's not a whole lot of questions. And I didn't get too far. I'm going to have to do another on this tape, because there was so much in that tape. And then, of course, I put in these other sidelines. So I'm going to come in. So good night, folks. We'll talk again.